Thank you, Ken Corla. Minister, you might get Patrick or someone to reply to these because we don't have enough. I think it's scandalous on an agricultural debate that we only get a few minutes to speak and others didn't bother their arse turning up at all. The bottom line on it is, Minister, the previous Taoiseach, Minister or Varadkar, he stated that Ireland would top up whatever the loss was. Will we top up the cap payment to make sure that the budget is there? Second of all, what are we going to give on the carbon tax budget? Because the carbon tax budget, Eamon Ryan has talked about all of this, what's going to happen, but it doesn't seem to be coming so far this year. The third thing, I need the wording, and every deputy, in fairness, that spoke about the GAIAC that the hill farmers brought to attention, we need the wording that's agreed in Europe in relation to wetlands. What will the maximum single farm payment be? I'm a firm believer that 50,000 is enough, 1,000 a week, and divide it out among the smaller farmers. Then, will you do front loading? Because everyone is talking about the smaller person losing money with high entitlements with the smaller amount of land. That's how you'll solve front loading. Minister, in relation to the REAP scheme, which will probably come in under Pillar 2, I'm hearing at the moment, Minister, that the farmers that's in at the moment, if they opt out, there is nobody new going to be brought in. So that figure, our budget, won't be used, which is supposed to be from the carbon budget. And I'm also hearing from people on the ground in different counties, as well as the different planners, that there's 30 different flowers. Now, there's probably special names for every one of them, but from what I'm hearing, there isn't a lot of them in most of the places that they're looking for, and there'll be a major problem that a lot of farmers, with what they'll get in money, if they haven't X, Y, and Z, won't even bother going into the scheme. And on the climate bill, I don't need an answer from Patrick or from your department on this. On the climate bill, if the TDs from rural Ireland vote the climate bill through this evening, well then I think that the people of rural Ireland, no more than the people from Donegal and Mayo stood up yesterday, they'll be here rattling at the doors of us because they won't tolerate what's going on and what the green agenda is being followed.
Thank you very much, Ken Corla. I'd like to thank everyone for their various contributions this evening. I think it's been a very constructive debate, and I look forward to more of these as well as the CAP evolves, and hopefully if we get agreement at the end of this month, and indeed then as we put together our own national CAP plan from that point onwards. The CAP, Ken Corla, ensures that our farmers can continue to farm. It also ensures that we produce the highest quality food, and it ensures that we have a balanced regional economy. Money that comes into the farmyard stays in the locality. In the early hours of this morning, I returned from discussions in Lisbon with my European colleagues. We discussed the best way we can deliver a CAP that will work for all farmers in Ireland, and a CAP that we can shape ourselves, and one that would not be dictated to us. Other ministers share my concerns regarding the overly prescriptive approach prescribed by the European Parliament, and this is a critical point which I did refer to earlier. The European Council is approaching the talks with a desire to achieve a CAP deal, which we feel that the European Parliament unfortunately have not shown the same desire to. The final negotiations under the Portuguese presidency will take place at the end of June now in Luxembourg, and we need to reach an agreement which allows us flexibility in many of the key areas. And I want to be able to develop, Ken Corla, as I've outlined in response to a number of questions, a national strategic plan that best suits Ireland, that best suits Irish farmers and their families. The Common Agricultural Policy is expected to achieve a lot, but it cannot do everything. Everyone has a role to play. We need all elements of the industry to play their part, and fundamentally the market must recognise and reward positive change. Farmers who are embracing new standards in animal welfare or environmental actions need support, and not just from the Common Agricultural Policy either. Fundamentally, these changes have to be market-led and supported. Industry must make the choice to support farmers to reach for those higher standards, and consumers have to decide to reward this by choosing to pay for it. The CAP budget will do a lot, but we need a market response to ensure success. I know that many of you are concerned that farmers are being asked to do more, but many environmentally friendly practices can also support more cost-effective approaches by farmers as well. This has been demonstrated by programmes run by the farm organisations themselves. My focus in introducing eco-schemes will be to ensure that they are straightforward to understand and simple but effective to implement. Farmers need to understand that what they are being asked to do and why, and I hope that all farmers will see the value of participating in these schemes. The numbers of farmers applying for the new REAP scheme demonstrates farmers' willingness to engage and genuine interest in environmental matters. Farmers understand the importance of sustainability. They receive the farm from the previous generation and hold it in trust for the next. Farmers don't need a lecture, but they do want clarity, and it is my aim that they shall have this and be fully consulted throughout the process. The original proposals for the CAP budget included significant budgetary cuts. In the teeth of strenuous opposition, Ireland succeeded in reversing these serious proposed cuts to the EU budget for the Common Agricultural Policy. The result of those negotiations was the funding for Ireland for the 2021-27 period will be 10.74 billion in current prices. This is actually an increase compared to the original allocation of 10.68 for the current period. However, we have to acknowledge that increased environmental and climate ambition across all policy areas was a key factor in getting agreement on the overall EU budget. This has been a strong demand of citizens across Europe and is central to the new European Green Deal. While there will be a certain element of change here, our farmers need not fear this, as they already are pioneers in this regard. Nationally, we have also to consider the issue of exchequer funding to provide co-financing to draw down the EU funding. I can assure you I will not be found wanting in relation to seeking the necessary funding to support these objectives. With regard to enhanced baseline conditionality, this is part of the enhanced standards for the environment in the next CAP. This is a familiar process to most farmers, and we already have in place well understood systems with regard to inspections. Again, what I want to emphasise here is that the Council position supports Member States in having national flexibility with regard to the definition of the national standard. There are some new standards, such as the new GAEC 2 for the protection of wetland and peatland. And I've already spoken at length on this issue to this House, and I've always been clear in my stance on GAEC 2. I want to bring in a national standard that provides for appropriate farming activities to continue on this land. It has always been the view of the Council that farming in a suitably environmentally friendly way can take place on these lands. I have listened carefully to the fears expressed regarding the implications of GAEC 2, and I have raised this issue directly when we met last at Council in May and sought to ensure that the final language regarding GAEC 2 is very clear on this point. My colleagues, Cian Corla, agree with this, and it is my view that the final language on GAEC 2 will be very clear on this. As the son of a farmer from GAEC 2 lands, I know how rich these soils are and how they can work for the benefit of farm families. With regard to the social dimension, I want to be clear that I fully support the proper implementation of full employment legislation. As less than 10% of Irish farms employ labour, this is unlikely to be a significant issue for Ireland. However, I do have concerns about how this issue, which is very different from traditional conditionality, can be incorporated as is currently being considered within the CAP. I will continue to highlight these complexities as we aim to reach the conclusion of the CAP over the coming couple of weeks. Our National CAP Strategic Plan will include a full consideration of the issue of support for young farmers. The challenge of generational renewal exists across the entire European Union, and the issue of what level of funding will be allocated is still being considered as part of the negotiation process. Currently, there are a series of measures in place to support young farmers. The National Reserve and the Young Farmer Scheme provide some financial support to young farmers during the crucial early years when setting up. Under the TAMS 2 Young Farmer Capital Investment Scheme, young farmers can avail of a 60% grant rate as compared to the standard rate of 40%. There is also support available for collaborative farming to cover legal costs incurred. Ireland has invested significantly at national level through a number of significant taxation measures available to young farmers, including, for example, agricultural relief from capital acquisitions tax, retirement relief from capital gains tax, stamp duty exemptions on transfer of land, the provision of a €25,000 tax credit under the Succession Farm Partnership Scheme, long-term leasing income tax relief, and as well 100% stock relief on income tax for certain young trained farmers. In total, this amounts to some €228 million annually provided across the various national tax reliefs. And I certainly consider this demonstrates strong support for young farmers. Much has been said today about redistribution and the need to support family farms, and I agree that we certainly do need to support them. I have made my views on capping of large payments very clear, and have succeeded in the Council negotiations in obtaining much greater national flexibility in this regard. Indeed, it is my stance and the stance of this government which has led the way in terms of capping. But we must recognise that our farm structure is much more balanced than many other member states. The 80-20 rule of farm payment distribution simply does not apply in Ireland. We only have a small number of very large farms. Even farms with company structures are often simply parents with one child farming full-time. Equally, just because someone works part-time or even full-time off the farm does not mean, certainly, that they are not farmers. They still farm, contribute to the local community, and provide very important public goods. The reality is that Irish family farms come in all shapes and sizes. The entitlement system in place over many years is complex. All redistribution proposals have the most impact on those farmers with entitled values above the average. There are farmers with high value entitlements who do not have overall farm payments above the average. There are equally farmers with low or average value entitlements who have overall payments that are much larger than the average.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Cion Corla. And in conclusion, again, just to thank all deputies, Cion Corla, and I look forward to further engagement as the process at national level evolves, and hopefully as we get agreement at European level too that is satisfactory. Thank you.